As you're coming in, we're doing the class evaluations. There are three forms. I'm sorry, there are three forms. If you look up on the slide here, I've tried to kind of make it clear. So the first form, look, the top of it looks like up here. It's a Letters and Science Discovery course is what's written on top of it. And that's an evaluation of the class as a whole for the College of Letters and Sciences. The second form, which says in this boxed thing at the top, Instructor and Course Evaluation, that's an Earth and Planetary Science evaluation form, and that's for the class as a whole. And then the third one says with a box in it, Graduate Student Instruction Evaluation, and that's an evaluation of your GSI. And again, some of the questions on that form are not particularly relevant. So in that case, just leave those ones blank, but the majority are relevant. So if you could answer those. Okay, I'll give everybody a few minutes. If anybody doesn't have one of these three forms, if you stick your hand up, Cheng, Avinash, and I will do our best to bring them around, okay? Anybody else missing the letters of science? So again, in fact, it's specifically your input on what is good and what is bad about the course is really valuable. In particular this year, I'm going to be revamping this class in the spring semester, so it will be sort of all new in the next fall. And so this is actually the optimal time for you guys to give me some feedback on what you like and what you don't like, what you think would improve the class, because I'll be able to incorporate it for next year. Okay, anybody else not have the letters and science evaluation? When you've done the evaluations, if you want to just pass them down to this side, I'm going to ask Tom to so you don't need to sort them out, just pass them all down to this side of the class. actually to complete the evaluation really is important. So keep working on that. When they're done, pass them down to the pass them down to the center. So those of you who have been, I want to ask you, there's an effort on campus right now to create, I guess I should use the mic, to create a big data initiative in undergraduate education. How many of you know what I mean when I say big data? Okay, so big data really is just the latest buzzword for doing what we've been doing for a really long time, which is using data and analytical capabilities to understand data. So big data is about processing data statistically, whether it be medical data, economic data, earthquake data, any kind of data, it really doesn't matter. And there's an effort on campus to create a data curricula that students with any background could minor in, where they would take some foundation level course on data analytics and then could take higher level courses on data analysis. And the idea is that this wouldn't just be for people in science or engineering, but this would also be for people in humanities. 1/3 of you are intended humanities majors. So that's why I'm asking this class. I have to go and have a conversation with the Chancellor this evening about this. So I suddenly realized this is my opportunity to get input from you guys and to feed it directly to the Chancellor this evening. So I guess I'm asking for your thoughts and comments. Do you like the idea that there'd be a big data minor? You could take classes, whatever you end up majoring in, you'd be able to advertise that you have background in data analytics. To whom does that sound like an interesting possibility? Wow. Okay. How many, those of you who, so yeah, put your hands up if you think that sounds interesting. Keep them up high. Now take your hand down if you're in science. And take your hand down if you or intend to be in science, intend to be in engineering. So those of you now with your hands up are intend to be in humanities. Is that fair? Yeah? Okay. So this is something of interest. So those of you who are intended humanities majors, can you give me a couple of comments as to why this is of interest? Yeah? It might give you like an advantage when going out to get a career, just like an extra skill. An extra skill? Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah. So in political science, do you take any kind of statistical analytics classes? Okay. Any other comments? I'm just asking this because I can see some of you still doing your evaluations when they're done. Pass them down this way and, yeah. Okay. All right, great. Any other comments? Okay, I think most of you are done with the evaluations. If you're not, please keep working on them, and if you can pass them down to this side, and we'll pick them up at the end of the lecture. And I will suddenly become more articulate once we start talking about the lecture. Okay, so I have some more logistical stuff to tell you about, to deal with. First of all, it's the grade distribution from the midterm. So this is what the scores distribution looks like from that second midterm. And what I've indicated there is the approximate sort of boundaries for grades, for A's, B's, and C's. So you can kind of have a sense of where you fall. This is obviously, you got out of your 100% points for the entire class. That midterm was worth 15 points, and so that's obviously what is shown here. The grades were released after the class on Tuesday. I'll give you all a moment for those of you who want to take a photo. Shall I smile? All right. Yeah. Yeah. What are you asking? Yeah. So the boundary between A's and B's is sort of somewhere around about here. This is just for the midterm. Remember, obviously, what matters is the overall grade, which is the next. Well, people keep asking me this question. I think we addressed this at the beginning. It's curved. I don't know what that means. You guys have a sense. I can tell you that the way the grades will be assigned is you'll all be ranked, and I'm not trying to trivialize this, I'm sorry. It's just, you guys see this very differently to how I see it. I will list all of you in order, and, there'll be these cutoffs based on the grades, and the cutoffs will be around about, I'm giving you a sense that if your score overall right now is up sort of a 46 and above, you're in line to get an A. I guess that's what I'm just says. Does that answer your question? Right. Okay, so I'm going to quote you. But what she just said was 12.5 is in the 80%, so it should be a B, but I'm saying it's an A. If you like, I could turn it into a B. I assign the grades. I'm saying that if you're in this group, you're in line for an A. That doesn't mean that you only have to get 84% in the overall score to get an A. I'm just saying that you're in the upper group of the class and you're likely to get an A. Is that okay? Yeah, you take it. Right. No. Okay, so again, the question was, so now if you've got a 10.5, you've got a B. So no, so this is just, I'm trying to give you guys a sense of how you're doing in the class, because everybody, 50% of you have emailed me asking this question, okay? And what I'm trying to do is, of course, this is just the midterm. There's a total of 15 points out of 100 available. So there's no way you can take whatever you've got here and turn that into what you're going to get in for the final. I'm just trying to indicate that this is the upper group, which are likely, so if you perform with this group of people in all aspects of the class, you're likely to get an A. Maybe I shouldn't show these parts. I don't know, maybe they're causing more confusion than not. I mean, this is a better figure to look at, because this has everything up to now. Yeah. Absolutely. At the end of the semester, I will set a percentage, and if you're threshold, and if you're above that threshold, you get a plus, and if you're below, you get an A, and then et cetera, et cetera. And then we do actually, myself and the GSIs do then go through and we look at the entire list, and we look at the people who are close to these borders, and we ask ourselves whether based on the participation in the class and engagement with all of the assignments and everything, we would push people up. That's how we do it. The cutoff really varies from year to year, so it really wouldn't help you. I think it would do more harm than. Okay, any other questions? Okay. All right, I know this is troubling. Okay, next important announcement. Don't miss this. I sent out an email this morning with an update to the syllabus. It's just minor changes to the syllabus, but there's some important key things that you need to know about. The number one, well, the first, not the most important, but the first important thing to know is that on Tuesday, we will not be meeting here. If you show up at 11 o'clock here on Tuesday, you will miss the class. On Tuesday, we will be doing a tour of campus. Today I'm going to talk about buildings and retrofitting buildings. On Tuesday, we're going to look at buildings that have been retrofit. Okay? So on Tuesday, everybody needs to meet at Residence Hall's Unit 1 courtyard at 11 a.m. Usual lecture time. It's not going to be here. We're going to start over there. I think I have a slide. We're going to start over here, and we're going to work our way across campus, looking at various buildings that have been retrofit, and talking about those retrofits, and just talking about buildings on campus generally. Okay? So again, on Tuesday, we meet in the courtyard of Residence Hall 1, Unit 1. Okay? The other changes to the syllabus, and the only other one that's important that you should note is that the day of the last class, the last lecture, which is the review lecture, it's the summing up lecture, it's the this is the big picture and why we've been talking about all this stuff lecture, will not be on the last Thursday. It will instead be on the following Tuesday, the Tuesday of the reading week. Okay? And so that's all laid out. The syllabus was updated online, and the email that I sent out to the whole class also has that. Okay? Any questions? Oh, also on the updated syllabus and on the email is the location of the final exam. The final exam date and time, of course, has not changed, but the location of 150 Wheeler is on that as well. Okay? Yeah. Good question. Can't remember what we've done in the past. What we'll do for those with DSP accommodations, we'll take a similar approach to what we've done with the midterms, that we'll gather, so just come to the exam as usual, that group will gather and go somewhere else. Okay? Yeah. No, this is not a field trip. There's no field trip report. This is just a, oh my god, I can't believe I'm having classes in that building anymore kind of tour. You do not want to miss it. Any other questions? Yeah. Well, yeah, please be there at 11. It's always a squeeze to get the full tour in, so I'm going to start talking at 11. So we probably won't leave Unit 1 until 5 past, but realistically 10 past. Please try and be there at 11. I'm going to start talking at 11. Okay? Any more evaluations? If there are, so I've forgotten your name, I'm sorry. Say again? Kelly. So Kelly is collecting the evaluations. She's sat right here, so maybe there's just a few out there. If you could bring them to Kelly at the end of the class, that would be a big help. Thank you. Okay, thanks. All right, so let's move into, was that a question? Yeah. The tour is going to end at the Hearst Memorial Mining Building. Okay? All right. Okay, buildings. Gosh, a lot of logistics today. Sorry about that. So, buildings and preparing for earthquakes. So, obviously, this is where we're focusing on what we can do to reduce the impacts. And let's be clear, earthquake early warning is by far the coolest way that we can reduce earthquake effects. But the most important way, the most valuable way to reduce the impacts of earthquakes is by having good, strong buildings. Okay? And so that's why we're going to talk about it today. And then we're going to look at some of these buildings, the good and the bad, on campus on Tuesday. Okay, so this is the Transamerica building. Okay, it was built in 1972. It is 49 stories high. Okay, 260 meters high. Anybody like to guess how much the top of this building moves? A lot. What's a lot? I learned my new favorite quote, which I learned yesterday. Somebody says, well, in the long term, it's going to be like this. And the response is, in the long term, we'll all be dead. So we need an actual quantification when you say a lot. How much does the top of the building move? You don't know. Anybody else? How much do you think it moves? Yeah. 10. Whoa. Okay, so 260 meters high and a 10 meters sway backwards and forwards. Right? Let's calibrate ourselves. 10 meters. Me to the wall is about 10 meters. Still think 10 meters? The people would be pretty seasick if that was the case. Okay, the distance that it moves, well, actually, this is during the Loma Prieta earthquake. The total distance that it swayed backwards and forwards is about 30 centimeters, right? So that's about this much. Okay, but still, that's not an insignificant amount. I think I showed you the video of the swaying buildings in the Tohoku-Oki earthquake. I think I did, right? Yeah. So in those buildings, which are much higher than this one actually, and the Tohoku-Oki earthquake was much larger, so created this long frequency, long period energy, and so those buildings were swaying several meters backwards and forwards, so significantly more than this. The point is that buildings are not these rigid blocks, and in fact, you don't want them to be the rigid blocks. You want them to have some give. You want them to have some flexibility, so that they can accommodate the ground motion that occurs in earthquakes without just collapsing. All right. But of course, you want flexibility to a point. You can have buildings that are too flexible, and that would be illustrated by this case. This is obviously just a graphic, but this is why I have this figure. These are 3 seismograms from 3 accelerometers that were actually embedded in this particular building. This was a college gymnasium, so just a big open room basically, with a very large ceiling, a very wide ceiling without supports in the middle. In the 1984 earthquake, this moved swayed backwards and forwards much more than was expected. In fact, I think it was replaced. No, it doesn't say that. It was actually replaced after this particular earthquake. These are the seismograms. You can see that the shaking at the 2 sides of the building is, of course, it does shake a little bit. It is in an earthquake, but the shaking has been amplified in the middle. And that's just because you can just imagine you have this big flexible board and you're shaking it from the sides because, of course, the sides are attached to the columns, which is attached to the ground. The ground is shaking, and so that it amplified in the middle. Basically, this ceiling was not rigid enough. Right? So in this case, this was not rigid enough. It needed to have stronger beams so that the shaking wasn't amplified in the center. Okay? So this would be an example of where something was too flexible for an earthquake. So it's about striking the right kind of damage, the right kind of balance between these two to prevent damage. And so these kinds of lessons are learned, and they all work their way into what's called the Uniform Building Code. Okay? In this particular case, this went into the building code in 1991. Okay? So the other thing to learn about, or to recognize about the process of better buildings, is when they recognize a problem with a building, or types of building, or a type of construction, they then introduce new constraints in the building codes, but that only applies to new buildings.